A country where more than a quarter of the land exists below sea level, and towns are built lower than the waves just a few kilometers away. Experts say over 7,000 square kilometers here were not just built on land, they were wrestled from the sea by hand and machine in one of history's boldest experiments. If you think you know the Netherlands, wait until you discover the facts even locals find hard to believe. The real story is not what survived, it is what kept sinking, and why the line between land and water is so fragile. Here's what most never hear about the Dutch struggle just to keep their country above the waves. 7 meters. Below sea level, the ground in Zuidplaspolder holds a quiet tension that few outsiders ever feel. Here the landscape is flat as far as the eye can see, but the real drama lies beneath the surface. A concrete marker stands in a farm field, stamped with the number -7. This is the lowest point in the Netherlands, lower than the canals, lower than the North Sea just beyond the dikes. More than a quarter of the country shares this fate, with 26% of Dutch land sitting below sea level every day at the mercy of water. For the people who live and work here, this is not just a number. It is a daily reality. A dairy farmer in Zuidplaspolder describes the rhythm of life, always listening for the hum of the pumps, always watching the weather. When a storm rolls in, the anxiety is real. If a pump fails, water can cover a field in hours. The difference between dry land and disaster is measured in centimeters and in minutes. During heavy rains, alarms sound in the night. Families leave their beds and head out in rubber boots to check ditches, clear blockages, and call neighbors. There is no room for error. Generations have learned that vigilance is part of survival. The land itself is the product of centuries of effort. Once this was open water, a deep lake formed by peat cutting and floods. In the early 1800s, engineers and laborers built ring dikes and windmills to drain the Zuidplas. By 1840, the lake was gone, replaced by a checkerboard of fields and canals. But the struggle did not end with the first harvest. Every year, the ground sinks a little more as the peat dries and compacts. Every year, the pumps work harder to keep water out. Farmers talk about the weight of responsibility. If the system fails, the land returns to water, and everything built here is lost. This is life at 7 meters below sea level. For those in Zuidplaspolder, the statistics are impressive, but the numbers are personal. The fight to stay dry is never over. It shapes the land, the community, and the Dutch sense of what it means to live on the edge of the sea. Turning water into land has never been a small project in the Netherlands. Over generations, the Dutch have reclaimed more than 7,000 square kilometers from lakes, marshes, and even the sea, an area larger than the province of Gelderland. This transformation is not just a story of survival, but of national ambition. The most audacious chapter began in the early 20th century, when engineers set their sights on the Zuiderzee, a vast, stormy inlet of the North Sea that had flooded Dutch towns for centuries. The solution was the AF Sluit dike, a 32-kilometer-long dike that would forever change the country's map. Construction started in 1927, with thousands of workers building the dike by hand, with wheelbarrows and steam-powered cranes. On May 28, 1932, the final gap was closed, and the saltwater Zuiderzee became the freshwater IJsselmeer. This single act made possible the next phase, draining enormous tracts of the new lake to create polders, land that had never been farmed, never been walked, never even existed as solid ground. The first of these, the Wieringermeer, was finished just after the dike's closure. Then came the Noordoostpolder in 1942, and finally the largest reclamation project of all, Flevoland. Flevoland is the Netherlands' youngest province, officially established in 1986. It sits entirely below sea level, built on two immense polders, East Flevoland and South Flevoland, completed between 1957 and 1968. Towns like Lelystad and Almere rose from what was once open water. Today, Flevoland is home to over 400,000 people, with farms, forests, and cities laid out in geometric grids visible from the air. The province stands as living proof that the Dutch did not just defend their land from the sea. They created new land where there had only been waves. The Afsluitdijk remains the backbone of this achievement, holding back the North Sea and anchoring a landscape that was once unimaginable. Every kilometer of reclaimed ground is a reminder. In the Netherlands, geography is not just inherited, it is engineered. Windmills once lined the horizon at Kinderdijk, their sails turning not for grain or flour, but for survival. These wooden giants, built in the 18th century, formed a network designed to pump water from the low-lying polders into higher canals, keeping the land habitable. Today, Kinderdijk stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a living museum of Dutch hydraulic ingenuity. Each windmill was part of a larger system, working in concert with sluices and ditches. When the wind picked up, millers sprang into action, adjusting the sails and watching the water rise in the drainage channels. Even now, these windmills remain a symbol of the old technology that first made life possible in places where the ground lies below the rivers and the sea. But water management in the Netherlands did not stop with wind power. As Dutch cities grew, they faced a different challenge: how to build on land that was little more than saturated peat and clay. Amsterdam, the capital, sits on ground so soft it would swallow stone foundations whole. The solution was radical for its time. Over the centuries, workers drove around 11 million wooden piles deep into the earth, some reaching 12 meters or more, until they hit stable sand. Every canal house, every bridge, every warehouse in the old city stands on a forest of timber, much of it imported from the Baltic, forming the city's foundations. The logistics were staggering. Entire shiploads of pine and spruce floated down rivers each year, destined to become the unseen backbone of the city. A canal guide in Amsterdam will tell you that a typical house rests on 20 to 60 piles, while larger buildings and bridges can require hundreds. The city's iconic bridges, more than 1,200 in total, owe their longevity to this hidden architecture. For centuries, the piles lasted because they remained submerged, safe from rot in the oxygen-poor groundwater. But the system is not without its risks. During droughts, when groundwater drops, the tops of the piles can dry out and decay. Engineers now monitor moisture and stability, and conservationists work to preserve both the old timber and the city's unique skyline. The ingenuity of the Dutch, harnessing wind to move water and timber to build cities, laid the foundation for everything that followed. Before the age of electric pumps and concrete dikes, these early solutions made it possible for the Netherlands to reclaim land, expand its cities, and imagine a future where geography could be shaped, not just endured. On a cold night in February 1953, the wind howled across Zeeland in South Holland, pushing the North Sea against the coast with a force no one alive had ever seen. In a matter of hours, dikes broke in dozens of places. Entire villages disappeared under black water. More than 1,800 people lost their lives, and tens of thousands lost their homes. The disaster left scars that would never fully heal, but it also triggered a new era of Dutch engineering, one that would change the fate of the country forever. The answer to the 1953 flood was the Delta Works, a project so ambitious it would become known as the eighth wonder of the world. Engineers from Rijkswaterstaat, the National Water Authority, took on the challenge. Their task was to design a system that would make a repeat of 1953 impossible. Over the next 4 decades, they built a network of dams, sluices, locks, and storm surge barriers, each one a monument to human resolve. The centerpiece is the Oosterscheldekering, a massive movable barrier stretching 9 kilometers across the mouth of an estuary. When storms threaten, its steel gates drop, holding back the sea. But the most dramatic chapter was yet to come. At the edge of Rotterdam, the Maaslandkering stands guard over the entrance to Europe's largest port. This colossal storm surge barrier, completed in 1997, is a pair of floating gates as long as the Eiffel Tower is tall. When computer sensors detect a dangerous rise in sea level, the gates swing shut, sealing off the waterway in less than 2 hours. In 2007, a North Sea storm put the system to the test. Engineers in the control room watched as the water rose, centimeter by centimeter. With the city's safety hanging in the balance, the Maaslandkering closed automatically for the first time, averting disaster by the slimmest of margins. Today, more than 2,400 kilometers of dikes and barriers protect the Netherlands, shielding 65% of its people from the threat of flooding. The network is constantly monitored and maintained, with teams on call around the clock. Rijkswaterstaat engineers walk the dikes, check for leaks, and debate new upgrades as climate forecasts become more uncertain. The Delta Works and its steel titans are not just feats of construction. They are a living promise that the tragedy of 1953 will never be repeated. In the Netherlands, modern defenses are not a luxury. They are the line between land and sea, between safety and the unimaginable. Amsterdam's bridges are more than just crossings. They are the lifeblood of a city built on water. More than 1,200 bridges knit together the capital's maze of canals and islands, outnumbering even Venice. Some are centuries old, arched in stone or wood, while others are sleek and modern, carrying trams and cyclists. Each one is a testament to the Dutch habit of turning obstacles into connections. In the morning rush, bikes stream across these bridges in waves. The Netherlands has about 23 million bicycles for 18 million people, giving it the highest bike-to-person ratio on the planet. In cities like Utrecht and Amsterdam, bikes outnumber cars several times over. School children pedal in clusters, office workers ride in business attire, and parents ferry toddlers in cargo bikes. The cycling culture is not just tradition, it is a response to dense cities, flat land, and a national drive for safety. The movement began in the 1970s when parents and activists demanded safer streets after a spike in road fatalities. Their protests led to protected bike lanes, traffic-calmed neighborhoods, and a new vision for urban life. Today, cycling is woven into every aspect of Dutch society, from city planning to daily commutes. But the Dutch talent for moving people is matched by their skill in moving goods. Rotterdam, just 80 kilometers southwest of Amsterdam, is home to the megaport that is the largest port in Europe. Stretching across reclaimed land and artificial peninsulas, the Port of Rotterdam handles over 460 million tons of cargo each year, including containers, oil, cars, and grain from every corner of the globe. Giant cranes unload ships around the clock, while trains and barges fan out across the continent. The port's Maasvlakte 2 expansion added thousands of hectares of new land to keep up with global trade, a project shaped by fierce negotiations between port authorities and environmental groups. The result is a port that balances economic might with strict environmental oversight, setting new standards for sustainability in shipping. This drive for connection shapes the country's urban heart. The Randstad, a dense ring of cities including Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, and Utrecht, packs more than 8 million people into an area just a little larger than Los Angeles. With over 508 people per square kilometer, it is one of the most crowded regions in Europe. Streets are designed for movement, bridges for crossing, bike lanes for speed, ports for trade. The Dutch have built a place where geography is not a barrier, but a network, bridging water, linking cities, and connecting people to the world. At the southern tip of the Netherlands, Valserberg rises to just 322 meters, a modest hill and the country's highest point. From here, the land flattens into a horizon of fields and canals, a landscape shaped by centuries of adaptation. The Dutch have made the most of their low-lying terrain, turning waterlogged ground into some of the world's most productive farmland. In spring, the Ballenstreek region becomes a living palette of tulips. Tulip fields stretch in perfect rows, their colors vivid against the sky. More than 4.3 billion tulip bulbs are grown here each year, destined for gardens and markets across the globe. In Lisa, a tulip grower inspects his crop, hands deep in sandy soil. His family has worked these fields for generations, harvesting bulbs with a precision that matches the demand of international buyers. Each bulb is sorted and packed by hand, part of an export operation so vast it could circle the earth many times over. This bounty grows from land once considered too wet to farm, reclaimed through ingenuity and persistence. Dutch territory extends far beyond Europe. Thousands of kilometers away, 6 islands in the Caribbean fly the Dutch flag. Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten are self-governing countries within the kingdom. Bonaire, Saba, and Sint Eustatius are special municipalities. These islands, volcanic and lush, face their own battles with water, rising seas, hurricanes, and the challenge of building resilient communities. In Bonaire, leaders debate new seawalls. On Saba, residents brace for storm season. The Dutch approach to water management, born in the polders, now finds echoes in the tropics. Back on the mainland, the Room for the River program marked a turning point. Instead of raising dikes, engineers widened floodplains and moved entire villages, making space for rivers to flood safely. Farmers and conservationists replanted wetlands, restoring habitats for herons and wild horses. Cities like Nijmegen are safer now, shaped by a willingness to adapt. In the 1970s, a surge in child traffic deaths sparked the Stop de Kindermoord movement. Parents and activists demanded safer streets. City planners responded with Woonerven, living streets, and protected bike lanes. Within a decade, cycling became a right, not just a tradition. Today, Dutch cities rank among the safest for cyclists, a legacy of protest and resolve. Today, 17 million people live atop land that shouldn't exist. Land protected by 2,400 kilometers of dikes and by a relentless spirit of adaptation. As sea levels rise, the Netherlands stands as both a warning and a promise that ingenuity can reshape our future, but only if we keep building higher, smarter, and together. The next chapter depends on what we do now,